is Governor Bobber. I like good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Go! You're watching Dr. Politics.
They're Dr. Politics. He's the one to see. Breaking down the news with sharp analysis. From Congress halls to campaign trails, he tells the truth when all else fails. They're Dr. Politics. Dr. Politics. Exposing the spin, the lies and tricks. Dr. Politics. Dr. Politics. He calls it straight, no politics as usual. Love from backroom deals to primetime fights. He sheds some light and sets things right. Debates, elections, policy. He cuts through all the DC sleaze. Oh, Dr. Politics. He's got the facts. Dr. Politics. No holding back. Dr. Politics. Go away. Dr. Politics, he's got the facts. Dr. Politics, no holding back. Dr. Politics.
Welcome all. It is Friday, November 14th, and you're watching Dr. Politics, the Political Architect Show. We're joined by David Shepard and Don Irvine, the usual doctors. Dr. Burnett is out probably campaigning right now, so he is not going to be joining us this evening. But we wish Chris Burnett all the best on his door knocking and campaigning events over the next few weeks. But anyways,
What are his priorities?
I know. Yeah, it's like he. You know what? The audience he could reach here. But I tell you, the federal government's open, Don.
Yeah.
And you know something? They
I mean,
waited.
they're opening.
Yeah,
It's amazing how hard it is. It's not like turning on the light switch. I mean, it really takes a while. You know, I guess it's like one last analogy, like a giant ship, and you got to turn it around. So
I was about to say it's like a super carrier. You know, like it takes a while to turn those around. You know.
Yeah.
Or it's like remember the old days when you had light switches, you know, that you had to turn on, like big buildings had like 50 switches. So you had to kind of turn them all, and it'd take a while to turn them all on.
Mm.
You know, that could be it. You know, Hakeem Jeffries is going around turning the lights on in all the government buildings.
Well, I think it was a disaster.
Does that speak something of the fact that our government may be a little too big?
Yeah. And but I tell you, but here's the thing: the Democrats accepted the same deal that was available October 3rd.
Yeah.
They inflicted the pain for 40 more days than they had to. It's not like they got a better deal, you know. They all, you know, and I don't know if Don, if you saw the guy that organized the No Kings protests, is now vowed to primary every last one of the 8 Democrats that sided with the Republic, the freedom-loving Democrats. I can't believe Dick Durbin was one of those, you know, because
but a couple of those are retiring anyway. Kane's not up for another 5 years.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. I mean, it doesn't really necessarily require political courage, right? None of them are up for re-election. They're either going to retire or they're not up for re-election.
Like Gene Shaheen's retiring.
Yeah.
So it's not.
So is Durbin.
It's not like they're going to pay a heavy price in the next election.
And in Kane's, and I would say in Kane's argument, he said, "Look, I had to do it for my constituents because he wanted to protect a lot of these constituents who are getting laid off." So I don't see how it's going to hurt. I mean, I think it's silly.
Virginia split the vote.
But
Virginia split the vote because John Warner voted the other way, and
Mark Warner.
Yeah.
No, Mark Warner voted with the Schumers.
So he wanted to keep the government shut down. So Mark Warner wanted to keep,
which I would think has got to be bad politics in Virginia. federal workers. I mean,
He wanted to keep all the government employees in Northern Virginia home for another 40 days. And they're all saying we're gonna be back at this in December, right
yeah,
after Christmas.
or January, I guess.
We
But
had on direct line Chris Stock, who basically was talking about North Carolina avoids these deadlocks by if you don't get a budget, the previous year budget gets renewed for another year. That's what we need, a federal law to do that. So last year's budget becomes this year's budget.
Well, what we want is we want last year's budget to be smaller, or the next year's budget be smaller, just continue to reduce the size of that budget, right? And then our spending is still out of control.
What are your thoughts on the tariff rebate, dividend, whatever they're calling it?
It's a terrible idea.
I think I tell you, not to be that guy, but I think it is based on nothing more than a wealth redistribution campaign. Why are we doing this? It's kind of like none of us in this room will probably qualify for it. It's for everyone making $100,000 or less. And
I think, and not to speak for Don, but I think knowing some of Don's views in the past, we're already at $38 trillion in debt.
Yes.
Don't be doing any more returning of money. It's work to pay down the debt.
Yeah.
Right. And he's not brought in enough money on tariffs to cover that anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Which I mean, they're already trying to have their subterfuge there too, because he's trying to claim that that the tariff dividend, we'll get it. So the tariff dividend is not $2,000 per person by any stretch of imagination.
Yeah.
Well, remember Elon wanted to give $5,000 to everyone. Remember that?
Mm. Well, I'm for fiscal conservatism. I think you're going to have to start. I'd like you to cut government and pay down debt.
Yeah,
I agree.
So we're going to give $10,000 to those TSA workers as a bonus. So I think that's all. We're sopping up that money pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I think okay, if you're gonna, I'm not against bonuses, okay, but I think maybe we should give bonuses to other government employees that stayed on. Like I got friends that worked for 43 days without a paycheck. I mean, it'd be nice if they got $10,000 too. What makes TSA workers and air traffic controls any more special than somebody that was working, say, at NASA? We're keeping satellites in the air at NASA. You can ground every plane and you're fine. You don't need air traffic controls at that point.
Well, I don't know if any bonuses are needed. I assume they're all going to get back pay, and in many cases they weren't doing anything.
Of course they are. They're gonna get back pay, and also the people that were riffed are also getting their jobs back too.
Well, and the thing about back pay is I mean, in a way, I can see it's fair, but on the other hand, it's costly because you're paying people they didn't do anything really. Wasn't their fault, but it's still a cost there that you're paying someone for when they weren't doing anything. Actually.
Well, so remember the cost of government during the shutdown. It still cost us money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we didn't spend any money for the last 43 days just because the government was shut down. There's some fixed costs that we had to pay. Yeah. And the other brilliant gem and I kind of do like this one. There's two things about home ownership. They were talking about mortgage portability.
Yep.
Which is a good idea, I think. But Donna, 50-year mortgage. 50. Let's say you buy a $250,000 house at a 50-year mortgage, you're going to pay $1.8 million at the end of that.
So there's several problems with this thing. I mean, one is that the average home buyer now, I mean, when they first buy the first time home buyer is now in their 30s. So if you are going to stay in your home to pay that mortgage off, in theory, you'll be in your 80s. Okay, which just makes no sense whatsoever. Another issue is that the way the rules are written is that the government, the Fannie Mae and everything, they cannot actually back those loans. They're limited at 40, at a 40-year And then you have what you'll have is that, okay, so people think, well, if they are paying current interest rates, they might save a couple $100 a month. But there's no guarantee of that, because that longer term loan is also a riskier loan. So they may get hit with a higher interest rate, negating most, if not all, of those savings. So this is just, this makes no sense. I mean, look, Trump, there's a ton of things I don't agree with Trump. And sometimes my wife's like, don't say anything bad about Trump. I said, look, he's done some good things, but he throws out a bunch of goofy ideas to see what will stick.
And not to mention Dave Ramsey in Nashville is having a heart attack at the Ramsey building. He's probably having a heart attack hearing a 50-year mortgage. I mean, he advocates for a 15-year mortgage and do double payments so you're done in about 8 years, is what he says. Graham Steffens and other ones probably having a heart attack hearing a 50-year mortgage.
Yeah, no, I mean, right. Which with a home, because as you were talking about, there's the amount of interest you pay on that home is just going to increase substantially if you do this 50-year deal to begin with. So, this trying to actually take your 30-year mortgage, and by making extra payments, make it effectively a 15-year mortgage. If you can afford to do that, that's the better way to go by far.
Yes. Dave Ramsey also suggests that too. Get a 30-year mortgage, but pay it like you're doing a 15-year, double payments every month, and you'll be done. And there is something to be said about being out of debt, even though a lot of people say, home is or appreciated. You should always have a mortgage on them. You should never pay it off. You should have keep the longest possible mortgage you can on a house. I don't know.
That's Rick Edelman.
Yeah. Another NET alumni, Rick Edelman, by the way.
I remember he was briefly at NET.
By the way, in December, guess who we're having on Direct Line?
Who?
Dan Mitchell of Mitchell's in the Morning.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember him. I remember his first wife. Was it the first wife? They had Mitchell's in the Morning. It was the first wife who did that. Okay.
And I tell you what's the greatest. Dan was so much nicer than Major Garrett was, frankly.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I like Dan Mitchell. I like Dan Mitchell. Dan was a good guy. No problem with Dan. I like them, but
yeah.
No, Major Garrett, no, not a
He wasn't even friendly. Major was like, he thought he was at Good Morning America. That's how arrogant he was. He thought he was Charlie Gibson. But Charlie Gibson, I don't agree with this possibly heck of a nice guy. I ran into him at an Orioles game. Really nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we should be teaching financial responsibility and live within your means.
Yes.
And these kinds of things don't do anything towards that. You want, what does the tariff dividend do? It's like those COVID era checks that we got. I mean, what it does is it starts to fuel inflation in the long run. So you can wind up potentially with hyperinflation if you just start doling out this money. This is not the way the government should be operating at all. So, these ideas aren't really going to go very far. I mean, in essence, because people can't buy into this. Congress is not going to go along with. I mean, there's no emergency out there. There's not enough tariff money, as I said, to go around to pay for this to begin with. So let's work on our deficit and our debt, our national debt, and let's try to get that down, because the levels that we're at right now are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And how you can actually increase home ownership? Because I know this is all about home. Because I'm a big believer in home ownership. I think everyone should own a home. But what this also, what I think is, we need to deregulate so builders can build more homes. We got to stop building condos and townhomes, because frankly, those are usually transitional homes. Like, people live there when they're either really old or when they're really young, right? People we're Americans. We like green space. We like backyards. We like the backyard barbecue. You can't do a backyard barbecue in a townhome, especially these newer townhomes where you're like right on top of each other Maybe the
Well, I
old
mean,
movies do.
well, that's the thing with people if they want to live in the cities. I mean, you're going to have to build them in pretty tight,
Yep.
which is you have limited space. But I think it's a matter
But
of
I think I
building.
don't think in the suburbs. I don't think they should be building townhomes in McLean.
Well, they don't have too many there because of zoning, but a lot of this is local, sort of
Yeah,
local zoning,
yeah.
and the feds can only do so much. But I think Trump ought to make push for, and this is what he used to do: build, build, build. We have drill, baby, drill to reduce gas prices, and housing you got to build, 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 baby, build, because you got to get the supply. It's all about supply and demand.
Yeah.
You need more housing
Like right
available.
now, the prices are going up because I tell you, there's a lot of people, myself included, is just waiting for the prices to inch up a little bit more. Yeah, I could sell today and make some money, but I wanted to go up a little bit higher. It's kind of like the fact, it's going to keep going up until it doesn't, frankly. Although housing is always an appreciating asset in our area, it never goes down, frankly. Even in 2006, houses value just kind of flatlined. They never really went down in our area.
Well, I mean, the assessments we had that 3-year period where the assessments actually went down, which was great in terms of it also meant that your taxes, went down as well. If you're trying to sell, at that point, you weren't going to do as well as you would have before. But we kind of got overheated there for a while, and then things kind of leveled off. So housing prices it also depends upon the price point, right? I mean, the bigger, more expensive homes, they'll sell, but it may take them a little while. I mean, because you're going to have money to do that. And so then you're looking at.
I think it's the houses that are like $500,000 plus, like 500 to 950,000, 985. Those are taking longer to sell than houses. But I don't think in Montgomery County you could buy a house for under $500,000 though. Anyway, I don't think there's a single family 1,500 square foot mid-century modern home. I don't think you'd buy for under $5.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I just keep thinking about, where I used to live in Silver Spring when we first got married, that, when we looked around for housing, we looked at townhomes and single family homes, but I just remember, so, this was 40 years ago, where the townhomes off of Pepper Tree, in Connecticut, they were about $135,000, and it wasn't that much more for a single family home where we wound up for the first 20 years. And so that home that we left, 21 years ago, I'm sure it's
about 800. Probably.
It's well over. It's probably 600, 700, maybe like that.
8.
At this point.
I'd say probably more like 8 because you were real close to Glenmont Metro, and now you got the ICC, so it's not it's like people are. But I mean, those townhomes that were built by your dad's house by Seagram's on University Boulevard.
Yeah,
they were being sold starting at $199. Now they're almost like $700 for those townhomes. I mean, they're nice townhomes, but $750. And those townhomes they built along Rockville Pike, where the old American College of Cardiology was at. Those started at like $1.5 million. I wonder how much they are now.
All right, so I decided to look up my old home. State assessment is $569,000.
Okay, what does Zillow say though?
Yeah, I don't know. I have to look that up. I mean, they'll probably be fairly close within Zillow. I mean, I've seen the assessment now compared to Zillow, at least on my current home, it's pretty close.
Okay.
There's a very
also the way Zillow works. If your house has not sold recently, like let's say you've been in the same house for 40 years, the assessments Zillow's not going to be because it's never been on the market, because Zillow doesn't know what's inside the house.
Right. Zillow is only basing it on the square footage. I mean, it's it gives you a ballpark estimate, and so people it's gamification really of the real estate market, because you look at that and it's like people are just constantly checking Zillow for what house prices are like, and I can look at mine monthly, and it has, lots of variation. I'm like,
Yeah.
I really don't think my house, has varied that much in price,
Mm-hmm.
but Zillow moves it up and down
Mm-hmm.
all the time. And so I'm like, so it's not really a great barometer of where we are.
But hey, there's a
And we
house.
look at houses that sell in our neighborhood, and we're like,
You're probably
there's not a lot of correlation there.
yeah, but your neighbor's what, $1 million now? I mean, $1 million is what
Most
you
of them
yeah.
are I mean, a lot of them try to sell for $1 million and they get like
Mhm.
900 or 850.
Okay.
They people think I think part of that is that between the real estate agent and Zillow, they think
Mhm.
the house is worth more than they'll actually be able to sell it for.
Yeah.
But it's fine. You can. I know real estate agents hate to do this. They hate to lower the price because it shows up in the MLS system,
Mhm.
as the price goes down. But I don't have any problem. I think psychologically to the buyer, if they see the price has been dropping,
Yeah.
they see an opportunity where the owner probably still, and they could look at the price history, and they say, yeah, I mean, the owner will probably come away with what he needs, and then everybody's happy,
And I always say you start high because you can go low, but you can't go up. Let's say you put your
Yeah,
house
it's harder to go up, but there's not the
because the
buying
days of the
frenzy.
bidding wars. It's
Right.
not
We
you
don't
get
get the bidding wars we used to. I mean, the high interest rates have basically choked off the bidding wars,
yeah.
and have frozen people into place. Right. I mean, people
Yeah.
are kind of locked in. They can't with these high mortgage, these interest rates. They
Mhm.
can't. They don't want to give up their 3 or 4% mortgage or whatever, and then have to get into a 6 or 7% mortgage. And so they stay put. And so mobility among people who, you just don't see the housing turnover, new home sales. Yeah, they're not great, but but the older homes, those sales are even slower. Existing home sales just do not move very far in this environment. Now we are seeing interest rates starting to move downward. Probably maybe another cut in December. It's not clear because
But I think the days of 2% on a 30-year fix, or or 3% on a 30-year fix is those days are not coming back anytime soon.
That's like, yeah, well, look, that's like 2% inflation target for the Federal Reserve. You're not going to get that. We're not there.
We're never going to see $1.50 a gallon gas either.
Yeah. And look, and I don't care what Trump says. Prices are going down. Affordability, and then Dave wrote an article about affordability and things like this, and talked about Jack Kemp. But affordability is something that Trump tried to slough off.
Yeah.
But now he kind of reversed course with this tariff, right? I'm going to at least decide, try to bring in some Argentinian beef and do these other things and stuff like that. So I think somebody probably got to him and said, no, actually affordability is part of is a problem. People do vote with their pocketbooks, and they don't really care who's president on this right now. They just know that the prices are stubbornly high. And my wife is like, I mean, we had bought. Granted, it was a few months ago, and it was on sale. I think she had bought like chuck roast for $4.99 a pound. Costco is usually pretty good on just about anything, right?
Mhm.
You go to Costco, it's about $8 a pound right now. And this has only been within the last 3 or 4 or 5 months.
Mhm.
So there's a beef. There are things that Trump cannot do. I mean, he can't just magically create cattle, and more beef. He can't, not at least in the United States.
A bag of Doritos is like $4, and I really hate it when Safeway and China goes, oh, it's only $1.99, but you got to buy 6 to get it for $1.99. Who could eat 6 bags of Doritos before they go stale? Man.
Well, the thing is with affordability, there's only so much the president can do in terms of housing, but that's a key thing. But a lot of it's local zoning, regulation. There's some things you can do, but that's the tough issue, that a lot of that you'll have to rely on states, localities to really deal with.
Right. And New York is one of the worst places you can be for this because of rent stabilization.
Yeah.
Right. And that that is ruinous to those to everybody out there. People, voters overall don't really think about this. I mean, a Mondami can come in there, is like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and all this stuff.
Yep.
Like, look, if you own an apartment building and it's been rent stabilized,
Yeah.
and and then you have people who die or leave, move out of your apartment, you then have them, and they're a rent stabilized apartment, you have to make a decision. Do you rent that apartment again under the rent stabilization rules, or do you leave it empty? And it's actually better in many cases
To leave it
for
empty.
them to leave it empty. So then, I mean, David, we talk about supply and demand. So so you also have apartments that are empty because they're basically taken off the market because of these laws. And so people want to get into housing. This is an artificial program. Once again, it doesn't show the free market, which is what needs to happen in New York City in order to fix this problem. But liberals think that no, it's too expensive, so we've got to cap everything. Well, if somebody can stay in an apartment for 30 years under rent stabilization laws, where the landlord gets a small increase every year in the rent, while their costs of maintenance are going up and not covering that.
Yeah.
Why do you want to be there? I mean, to me, I was thinking after I was reading your article, David, I'm like, is this how we create, the next, version of slumlords, of people, landlords who just, they don't have any money to fix things, so they let everything go to hell, right? And then people complain, and you get a whole nother cycle of things like that. But if they don't have any money, if they're not making any money, they can't plow that back in to maintain these places. And then then there's a fight. Then they'll get sued by the government. All kinds of just garbage.
Seriously, Don, what really? I mean, we've seen this movie before. It's called the subprime lending. Remember when Bill Clinton wanted to make homes affordable, and you had those zero down homes for buying. And what happened in 2000 is the bottom fell out. And I mean, I don't think it'd be this bad, but I mean, these 50-year mortgages, right? Most people move every 7 years from their home. I mean, I think I might be one of the rare people. I think, Don, you as well. When you have a 50-year mortgage, it's kind of like when you buy a car, right? Say somebody buys a car and finances it for 60 months. And after 3 years, they decide to buy a new car. They have to eat a lot of that money because you got to pay off the old car before you buy the new car, and then you finance the next car, or you roll it in, and it just becomes a bigger and bigger debt snowball, so to speak.
Right.
And
look, you're making a good point. The thing here is that we have been kind of just ingrained, just kind of drilled into our head that the price you pay, focus on what that monthly nut is, right? On a car, on a house, or whatever, without thinking about how much money are you paying in interest. The 50, So if somebody's staying in a home for 7 to 10 years and they've got a 50-year mortgage, the chances are they'll have close to zero equity in the home when they leave. So, and that's not that's not home ownership at all. The car loans. I mean, I think you and I are, maybe Nathan, we're just, disgusted, shocked, just can't believe that we have gone from an era where we had 36-month car loans to 48-month car loans to 60-month car loans to 72-month car loans to 84-month car loans.
Yep.
Why are those car loans being stretched that way is to drive that monthly number down and making people think they can afford it. But what's happening now? The repo men are having a bonanza now because people can't afford the car. They lose a job, or they have some shortcoming in income, and then next thing, then they're further on. They just go so underwater they can't get themselves out, and so then they have to hide the car if they can, as long as they can. But eventually the repo man will get a lot of those cars back.
Can the repo man go and break into your garage to get your car?
They can't go inside that. It has to be out in the public.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because that's private property at that point. I mean, there was a story in the Journal about the repo business, how it's just booming. Now, the actual the repossessors, the guys who are actually bringing the cars, that's a tough business because they don't get paid a whole lot and they take a lot of risk, right? Because you do not know if the person inside the house and they sees you at night or whatever trying to take away their car has a gun or something else and will try to chase you down, shoot you, stab you, whatever.
Wasn't there a TV show on like A&E or something like that about the repo man?
Yeah.
There probably was.
I remember that. Yeah. There were probably a few.
Yeah.
You remember that?
That's not easy. I think in the journal article they were saying that this guy had spotted. It's gone very high tech. They can see like on a computer in their car. They have all the things that they're looking for, and when they spot one, they had a car in a driveway, but it was boxed in, and the guy tried to figure out could he somehow extract the car when it was boxed in, and he said he gave up because there's no way to get his vehicle there and get the car out, easily and everything like that. So, and there are some people who just realize that, they can't fight this and they just turn over the keys, so that goes to auction and the car winds up back in the system.
And, here's the thing, 84 months, most cars are going to last 84 months. Well,
I mean, cars are better made today than they were before, especially the foreign cars. I think are in general, they outshine the American counterparts and they do last a long time. We are definitely holding on to our cars longer than we ever were before. I mean, when I was a kid, if you got a car to 10 years, 100,000 miles, you were doing great. That was great. Now
I had 3 cars I got
miles. It's like that's nothing. People go to 250 or more, on their cars. As long as they keep them maintained, do the oil changes and whatnot.
They'll last a lot longer too than nowadays.
Yeah, no, I mean I think they really are better made. We've got a couple of used Lexuses in the house here, and we basically, what have we done with them since the time we bought them? Oil change, brakes, tires.
That's about
kind
it.
of general maintenance, but we haven't had that like big bill like I did when I was a teenager. Like all of a sudden, you got to have the tie rod ends, or you got to have this and that, and the bills would you'd spend thousands of dollars fixing your car. That doesn't happen really anymore, except for just basic maintenance. You don't get those surprise bills. There are things that are going to eventually go wrong with a car. But I mean, look, the cars, both these Lexuses, I mean, they're batteries that came with the car, which were relabeled interstate batteries. I found out they lasted about 7 years plus.
Yeah,
that's good. That's excellent. To do that. So I think a lot of things are just made better than they used to.
Very true. I mean, Don, I've had 3 American cars that I got 10 years, 150,000 miles on one, 160 something on another, 170 on another. There's only one car that didn't make it to 100 grand that I owned was my GMC Acadia. It died in 5 years. The transmission dropped out. I wasn't going to pay to have.
I remember that one. Didn't we drive? We drive that to North Carolina?
Yeah, remember I dozed off on the
memories.
Yeah. And our friend Chris Stock from there is now running for state senate in North Carolina.
Good for him.
Yeah. And he's got a good shot too. He's got a good district, right now it's held by a Democrat, but he gets through the primary. I think he's got a good shot at winning, good common sense, But we've had more than just the budget and the crazy housing stuff. I think we should let the final thought on the whole housing stuff. I think we should let the market handle this.
Oh yeah.
Nothing good comes out when the government decides to tinker with stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, look. I mean, this is part right on housing, and this is part of the argument. On the shutdown, right? They took what was it, 14 votes? And the Democrats kept, just stalling this and just, delaying these things until the other Democrats, joined in and got this thing over the finish line, goes to the House, goes get to Trump. And so at least we get, we get the government open until January 30th, and then they gotta fix it by then again. But that
just in time for the Super Bowl.
I know, look, they were going to kick the can down the road because that's what they do. So there's nothing much I can do about it. You can do it.
Yeah, I really think we need a law that they're not allowed to adjourn when the government shut down.
Yeah, and they don't get paid and not get paid.
Yes.
Yeah, they need.
Hakeem Jeffries has said that's a constitutional thing.
If they're going to say that government workers aren't going to get their paycheck, then they shouldn't get theirs either.
I agree.
Until they fix the problem.
Yep.
Give them more incentive.
Hey Don, you'd be surprised how fast they'll have a budget ready long before October 1 when that happens.
Oh yeah.
They'll have the budget ready in the summer.
Well, Dwight, I would generally agree with you in terms of letting the market decide in the case of housing, but I do think government should try to be proactive if there are certain regulations to cut help.
They need to get they just need to get out of the way of the free market. Get rid of the regulations,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
In Pennsylvania's real estate law, you have to disclose if you think you have if you've got a haunting in your house. That is something you got to disclose. In the state of Pennsylvania. In Maryland, you have to disclose. It used to be, you could say, I don't know, don't ask, don't tell about lead paint. Now you have to disclose if you have lead paint in your house. I mean, I don't think any house that was built in the 50s still has lead paint because it's probably got layers and layers of latex paint over it over the years. So is there lead there? It's buried.
Yeah, but I mean, I understand certain things that we have determined now that are legitimate health hazards or something like that. That's one thing. But the problem
as Rush Limbaugh says, lead paint's fine until kids start chewing on the walls.
Really. I mean, look,
the
same could be said for all the asbestos we had in our high school, right? It really wasn't hurting anybody in the ceiling tiles until you broke them up and created the dust. And I only say that from personal experience, from being part of a group of kids that really were stupid, didn't know what we were doing, and I followed along and we poked a few ceiling tiles out and broke them and created lots of dust in the hallways. Probably not a smart thing to do.
See, we used to take really sharp pencils with rubber bands and launch them in to see if they could stick in there.
Yeah, that, and I don't know. Did you guys do the like the little foil and put them into the sockets to see if they go zap?
Nah, I didn't do that. Nah.
Yeah. If you sat in the back of the classroom that I did a lot of times, you'd find out that your friends around you said, oh yeah, let's take this gum wrapper, wrap it up and then stick it in there and see what we could do with it. It was like,
nothing happens. I mean,
no, I mean, it's like, just, but you can see in the outlet how it gets singed.
But if they really wanted to do something, they should have taken a paper clip, open it up and stick that in there. Let's see how that works.
Yeah, well,
if they were really daring, that's what they would have done.
But I keep thinking about the Democrats kept, and they've been stuck on the healthcare thing, right? Healthcare premiums are going to go up, blah 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 blah.
Wait, didn't Obamacare supposed to fix everything? Wasn't that supposed to fix everything? That was the panacea that was going to fix everything. We were all going to get healthcare. Didn't Obamacare? Why are we still fighting about healthcare?
Well, we've got right. Right. So I mean, what is it called? It's called the Affordable Care Act, right? But it's only affordable with government subsidies, right? So I mean, that's part of the thing for the Democrats is that they don't want any subsidies taken away because then it opens up and says what a sham this whole Obamacare thing is because it's really not affordable.
But I mean, insurance rates have gone up.
More affordable beforehand. And Obamacare forced you to get insurance. If you didn't get insurance, you had to pay a penalty. So a lot of people paid the penalty because it was cheaper than getting the insurance, right?
Yep.
So
I think they got rid of the penalty.
You had all these crazy things going on there, but they also, I was thinking about this. The Democrats have made this seem like this is a problem, increasing health insurance premiums for all Americans, in terms of it's going to shoot up. But think about this. There are, between Medicaid and Medicare, there are about 130, close to 140 million people in those two programs compared to Obamacare, which has got about 45 million thereabouts. So you're talking about a much smaller number of people, and I understand it can be a little bit of a shock to see your insurance premiums increase, and it just depends. But if you weren't making a lot of money and you were paying 1%, of the premium, and now you're going to have to pay 6% of the premium. Yeah, it's going to shoot it up a bit because premiums are going to go up anyway because healthcare costs. That had already been announced across the board that because of increase in costs, that this was going to head upwards anyway. But is 6% paying 6% of the premium? Is that really a burdensome? Are we, the taxpayers, supposed to be subsidizing that much of someone's insurance premium? I don't see this is a great program. The government shouldn't be in this business, and this is we don't like socialized medicine. This is kind of our version of it because you can have it. You can take it with you. You're going to save $2,500. None of this stuff happened.
We really need to look back into the Coverdale savings plans. By the way, we could do for how, speaking of the Coverdales, basically going back to a little bit on the housing stuff, why we could do a Coverdale housing plan, just like, you have money taken out for your down payment, to get to like 20% of the house you want to buy. And that, that's one way to help solve the problem, frankly. And we should let people save for a housing down payment tax-free, frankly. And I think when they did adjust or relax some of the IRA rules where I think you can take some money out to apply for housing without penalty, which is better. It helps, because everybody you should have to put a down payment on a house. You talked about the zero down payment. Bad idea. Very bad.
Terrible idea.
Thank you, Barney Frank. That was Barney Frank and Bill Clinton idea.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I think all these are good ideas, but I still think that it's a matter of supply. You got to try to get more housing online. And I think also what helps is now kicking the illegals out of here. Because when you have millions of poor people coming in, they're going to need a place to stay. And so that adds to your housing crunch. So if you get the millions out, that probably will help. But I think mostly it's a matter of build, baby, build. I think we need to get more housing online. From everything I know, Dwight doesn't care much for the condos and apartments, but I think across the board, whether it's condos, whether it's apartments, whether it's single family
condos
housing,
remind me of Atlas Shrugged, frankly. Everybody's riding trains, living in the city. No.
But some people like that life. It's just they like city life. Yeah. They don't mind having a small apartment.
But I don't like seeing condos out in the suburbs. Is my point. It's like right now by NIH they built a right where Montgomery Mall and all this, where Marriott used to be. They could have put single family homes there for families. Instead, they got townhomes.
Well, because the Martin O'Malley types and the liberals, they don't like single family homes.
Because they don't like families. They don't like children. Right. That's what it is.
Right. So that's why they want to try to get it to that it's all just really condos and townhomes.
Yeah, look, Montgomery County had a program. I don't even know how much of an effect it had, in effect today. But, for many, many years, the moderately priced dwelling unit, the MPDU, program, what they was doing was that they told builders they could increase, the number of units they could build if they set aside a certain number for
10%,
the low income.
10% was the number. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but in order to do that on the fixed land they had, there was either going to be townhomes or a cluster of condos or whatever in order to do that.
Or a small one like they did in Avenel.
And in order to make those numbers work. There are people who, I think there are people who work at, every level. There are people who like condos, there are people who like apartments. There are others who like single family homes and things like that. And we do need more supply. Part of the issue with the supply too, though, is that, post pandemic, the cost of building materials and labor have
Yeah.
skyrocketed.
Mhm.
So that has an effect on the prices. You
Well,
know,
Kamala Harris will say that's what happens when you kick out all the illegals. You got to pay more.
It's nuts. I mean, to think about, when I drive around Montgomery County and I see a new, development for townhomes, and they say prices starting in the 400s or 500s or 600s, I'm like,
Mhm.
how many people can afford that? I mean, in my mind, it's like that's already, that's well beyond, the starter home price.
Don, my first house was $185,000. I sold that a few years ago for about 8 something.
Yeah. I mean, I think about Spencer. Spencer and his wife were saving for a house, and I think they were hoping to move back here to DC. He was, thinking about all of that, but they weren't putting, they were putting a little bit aside. And, when he passed, they had a little bit of money in there, but they, barely enough probably for even a halfway decent down payment. I thought, boy, unless he put down a lot more money, saved a lot more money, he was never going to be able to get to a house situation without my help, which I would be willing to give him. I would have been willing to give him that if that's what, if that we had come to that point, that he had, he had said, I've got what I'm putting it together. I'm going to move back to DC or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just, you try to save, and it's like you constantly fall behind. You can't keep up because housing prices tend to creep up, especially on the new homes, existing homes. I mean, if you buy a starter home, that's a fixer upper or something like that. Yeah. But, Spencer's like me. We're not the fixer upper types. We need turnkey.
Yeah, I know. I call a plumber to change a washer. And that's all because when I would, because those older homes, you got the older fixtures and all that. Something breaks when you're trying to open it up to get the washer out.
Yeah.
Or you strip something. So after like a while, every time the washer would go out, I just buy a new faucet and replace the entire unit.
Well, the thing is, I mean, there's a lot of value in if you're a DIY person, you can save yourself a lot of money if you're really good at it. But like when I replaced a couple of toilets several months ago, as I had asked a friend of mine who's in the construction business to, for a plumber. So he sent me a plumber, and I was willing to pay that guy to put those toilets in. One, because I don't have any clue really how I'm going to do this. Two, said if anything went wrong, it's the plumber's problem to fix it. If he broke that, if he had broken anything on that toilet, he would have had to replace that. So he was incentivized to make sure he did a good job, because he didn't want to be on the hook for any of this stuff. And he did a great job for the toilets, and I thought that's worth it to me. I move the liability off to somebody else.
Yeah.
I will pay somebody to take care of that.
Yeah. You know who actually does a lot of that stuff himself, like Bats, when he was renovating the house in Annapolis? He basically did, him and our friend Dave did a lot of the work. And Dave is like, he's up there in the years. Dave's probably about 60 some years old, and Dave knows where all the bargain people are too. Like he got, he helped James, I think, put in a lot of his cabinets himself, or between him, Dave, and Dave's son Paul, they put in a bunch of cabinets. They put the cabinets in the kitchen themselves and so on. But I mean, James does his own oil changes, as he was telling me at one point. I go, "You do that?" But
yeah, I've done a few things. I remember, back when I was younger, I've done a few things like flushing out the radiator and stuff like that.
Oh, I never did that.
But it's like, I don't do that stuff anymore. It's like I'm paying people to do these things. It's just like,
as I like to say, Don, they have people for that.
Yeah, no, they do.
I feel that way. It's like, like people say, "Oh, why don't you can mow your own lawn? Your yard's not that big. It's only a half an acre. You can mow that." I'm like, yeah, but my time is more valuable than the 2-3 hours that I have to spend mowing that lawn.
Yeah, the thing it's actually it's amazing. Like,
you've got a big yard. You know what it's I'm talking about.
I have the old self-propelled mower going to do this, and I have been until this past summer, I have mowed my lawn forever, right? I've mowed ever since I was a kid. I've mowed the lawn. My wife finally convinced me. She says, you got to pay somebody. It's amazing how fast these landscapers guys can mow a lawn with their right.
They're in and out in like 15, 20 minutes.
That's right.
Yeah.
It takes me 2 to 3 times that long to mow the lawn.
And they edge and they do such a beautiful job.
Oh yeah, no. My wife is very happy. I had given up and I said, I admit the lawn looks a lot better.
Yeah. I mean, like when I do it, it's like, do I want to go back and finish the little blade I left, or whatever?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You have like that one that's stuck up and you're like, oh, I missed this. It's like,
I would either not cut it or step on it to push it down.
Yeah, no, and it's a reasonable price, right? I mean,
yeah,
I don't know how legal all these people are. I think they're still using the gas powered leaf blowers and stuff like that.
Well, Montgomery County said they don't want to enforce that ban because a lot of the, as Evan Glass, I believe it was, he said, because a lot of people in the lawn mowing business are of Hispanic origin.
Well, that law could easily put a lot of them out of business, because trying to buy a battery powered blower. I mean, I've got one that I spent, I don't know, $200 or $300 on 3 or 4 years ago, whatever it was. The battery lasts 20 minutes. And you get it, I got it from Costco. So I got 2 batteries that came with it. So 20 minutes, it dies, pick up the second one while I charge the other one again, and I can play that game for a little while.
Does that one charge up in 20 minutes? The second one, do you get a full charge?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It's like, I don't think even 20, I think it needs more than 20 minutes to fully charge, but you get some charge out of it. So you could go beyond 40 minutes, but you're not, maybe that takes, in that 20 minutes, it's half charge or something like that, or whatever. And so you get a little bit more time out of it. So you can't play that game of switching back and forth too long. So it's not very efficient at all to do that. But I do have to get the leaves blown off my lawn one more time.
Do you do it yourself, or do you have?
I do it myself. Yeah, I do it myself pretty much. So though I have asked my missionaries to come by and do that this one last time, and I think they'll probably come by next week to do that.
By the way, the missionaries, they do a lot of, because I remember Bats was telling me his motorcycle had some issues, and these missionaries know who you are because Bats mentioned your name. They knew you, and they offered to fix his motorcycle for him.
Yeah, I mean, they're supposed to do a certain amount of service if they can find it. So they do a fair amount of moving, of helping people move.
Yeah,
I actually get reports from them that I'm supposed to track, and so they do.
Hey, I tell you, when I move to Florida, Don, I'm gonna have you bring me some missionaries to help me move.
Yeah, they do all kinds of things, just random things that they run into. They do. Sometimes they mow lawns for people. Sometimes they rake leaves for people. Sometimes they're just out in the garden doing stuff and whatever. It's kind of a wide variety of things. If they're not at a food bank or some other thing like that, like the manna, place up in Gaithersburg or things like that. So they're all over the place throughout the area.
Yeah, and we are getting really close to final thoughts. But I know there's a couple of other issues. One last issue I really did want to cover was the BBC versus President Trump. It's like, have they missed the whole lawsuits, how they worked out for CBS and ABC and CNN?
Also, I wonder if the different laws could affect that, because their libel laws are weaker are stronger in effect than ours. In other words, in America, you're going to say almost anything you want because of the First Amendment again't certainly a politician. Yeah. I don't know if that's the case in England. I mean,
yeah, but they're not even going to, right? They didn't even file the case about this potentially in England. They're going to do it. They were going to do it in Florida, right?
Mm.
So, and for the BBC, I mean, they're just a terrible organization.
They are, but they,
Yeah.
BBC America shows all the Star Trek stuff.
But this documentary, this whole thing was limited to the UK. We didn't see it here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't broadcast here. So what's the real harm? They have apologized to President Trump. He threatened to sue them for $1 billion, but it'll be a tough road for him to get anything out of it. It's one thing with ABC News and Paramount and all the Disney, all the things that he's been able to accomplish there, because he's got more power here over them. The Republicans control the government. They've got all kinds of levers they can pull, and there was definitely a lot of pressure on these networks to settle, to put all that behind them so they could move on. There isn't really a whole lot of incentive for the BBC, but it does what I really hate about this with the BBC is that they're not they're saying really still that what they did is not necessarily untruthful, right? It doesn't change the narrative of.
It's like Dan Rather.
That was Dan Rather's argument too. Yeah.
That was Dan Rather's defense.
I mean, seriously, like, you take two segments of a speech that were an hour apart, you put them together, then you throw in the Proud Boys marching to the Capitol, and you create this image that where Trump incited these people to go march on the Capitol and commit all this violence. It's like,
I'm surprised they didn't splice in some World War II.
It's nothing. They created a narrative, a story, and a complete lie, a fabrication, and they're saying that the basic underlying truth was still there. It's like poppycock.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. By the way, Don, I'm surprised they didn't splice in some German war footage from World War II about Trump's shock troops.
Yeah.
But it's like
there's no, not to interrupt you, but there's no innocent explanation here.
No.
You take this clip, you go down 30 minutes, and then I'll take that clip.
I mean, it's like, Mike Wallace in 60 Minutes had a better argument against Westmoreland than BBC did.
This is one of the worst things you could have seen. I mean, in terms of what they did, and their excuse was non-excuse.
Yeah.
They did the Dan Rather defense. Ask Dan how that worked out for him.
Yeah. Dan's the thing about it is that Dan's still chugging along, and you hear from him every once in a while, right? I mean,
is he going to do his own
Facebook page to see what he's doing and all, but
is he going to go onto what do you call TikTok and be like Don Lemon?
I don't think he's that high profile. I mean, he's around, but I don't think he's going to be.
Every once in a while, he writes a commentary that somebody picks up on, but I think that's just to say, hey, you're Dan Rather. We like that commentary, whatever.
It's funny. Katie Couric is a Today Show alumni, and so is Megyn Kelly is a Today Show alumni. Who's got the better career now? I mean, Katie Couric was heralded as, wasn't she? Didn't she replace Tom Brokaw or Tom Brokaw's successor at some point? Wasn't she anchoring the evening news?
I think she was briefly at one of the networks.
CBS,
Yeah.
And but this week she also had that interview with Fetterman where she's trying to get him to say, "Hey, aren't you wrong?" But let's go to final thoughts. So I will start it off because I got a movie. Hold on a second. Whoops.
Final thoughts, is that with me?
No, I'm gonna. I got a movie.
He's reversing the order here.
Yeah, I'm gonna start because I've got a nice little movie to show. I know. Hold on. Window. Share. Skit. Tell me if you can hear the. See, this is the Evita I remember from the television commercials. And then you could have Che Guevara show up. See? Che Guevara. Okay, that's enough. That's enough of that.
So
But
you must have YouTube Premium or something to do that.
yes, I do. But you know what's funny is how Che Guevara kind of looked like Zoran Mamdani in that clip. You know,
They said they share the same ideology.
yeah. I mean,
They do, that's for sure.
Zoran can be in the next when they remake Evita for Broadway. It might still be on Broadway. Who
My
knows?
guess is when Zoran was 14, when it was cool, he had a Che Guevara poster in his room. That's just my guess.
In Tanzania?
Yeah, probably. If that's where
Was
he
it
was.
Tanzania? No, Uganda, right? Not Tanzania.
Uganda, I think, yeah.
Well, yeah. And what do you call? He had a poster of Idi Amin in his room as a child. But final thoughts, not much going on. Next week we have the Prince George's County Lincoln Reagan dinner with the speaker, which reminds me I need to send Jesse Peed the names. I haven't done it yet. That's coming up next Thursday night at Martin's Crosswinds. Come on all. Go get your tickets at pggop.com. And great event, great food, easy to get to, plenty of parking. Also, we've got coming up is the Montgomery County Home Club's Christmas party for the lack of the long word, which is the Kacha Bullock Memorial United States Marine Corps Tours for Tots Christmas party. December 7th. Check out more information on Montgomery County Republican Club, mocogopclub.com. Check it out. A lot of fun stuff there. And that's pretty much all I've got. Dave, we'll go with you.
Well, continuing to crank away on the Substack column, so keep looking. And also on the Substack, you can get my my podcast with Phil Hamilton, so that's doing well. And yeah, hopefully it'll be a good weekend. I'm not looking forward to the cool weather that's coming, but hey, that's fall. What
It's going to
can
be
I
in
do?
the 60s this weekend.
Well,
It'll be in the 60s, Dave.
okay, okay.
We had a nice cold snap this week, though.
We're going to have one next week again, too. And then by the weekends, it's going to be in the 60s again.
Yeah,
But anyway, check out the Substack. I'm adding at least 2 a week, sometimes 3. So I'm keeping cranking up. So check it out. But otherwise, that's all. That's about it.
Don?
Okay, just a couple things. So the U.S. Mint has cranked out its last penny.
Yep.
So we can RIP to the penny.
Yes.
It's just creating a little bit of a stir with retailers because you have people who are still paying in cash, and so now there's rounding up and rounding down, and so but you know.
But you can they can still accept pennies, right? Just because you.
Yeah, and they encourage you to pay, try to give you exact change and stuff like that. There was a story about, I think in the Journal, about Burger King, extremes they're going to get pennies to their locations and stuff like that. And I think there was some store or retailer somewhere, grocery store, where they were going to pay you 2 cents for every penny you turned in. There's still a lot of pennies in circulation, but what happens with a lot of pennies that we get when we do pay cash? They usually go in a jar somewhere, or they wind up in your couch cushion or whatever.
Yep.
So they go out of circulation. But so I may go to my coin jar and see if I can't help the economy here a little bit.
Is Coinbase still around? Does Coinbase still have those machines around?
Coinstar?
Coinstar. Not Coinbase is the crypto guy.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. That's good. I don't go to a lot of these retailers where they have those or had those in the past.
I remember when banks would do that for free.
Costco.
Yeah. I remember when banks used to do that for free. And the cop out was those machines were always breaking. That's why we stopped. No, you just don't want to give your customers a service, frankly.
Yeah. I mean, they were annoyed. Actually, you think it might be if you're actually going to turn in pennies, they actually might say, "Oh yes, please give us your pennies.
Give me 2 cents for every penny I give you.
Deposit all your pennies, please."
My guess is everybody in their home, like you said, in their cushions or in a jar somewhere, have a bunch of pennies.
Oh yeah, remember the stories where people have paid like their tickets with pennies as a protest?
Yeah.
Hey, do that. Yeah, go ahead, do that, because we got to get those pennies back in circulation.
Yeah.
You know, and everything. I mean, it was costing us 3.7 cents for every penny to do that, right? To
Yeah.
manufacture
Yeah.
those things. So I understand that, and other countries have eliminated, you know, their equivalent of a penny as well. So,
Yeah.
it's
But we have a friend of ours that once bought a Lincoln Day dinner ticket with dollar bills.
yeah. Well, I
He
mean,
just emptied out his Coke machine because he did the vending machine things. He emptied that out and used that money to pay for the Lincoln Day dinner. It drove a mutual friend of ours very insane, having to count
Mm.
$250
yeah,
in
well,
singles.
If,
Yeah, I bet.
if you're the person on the receiving end that's got to take care of him, deposit is kind of a pain in the neck. I spent enough time. I spent enough time selling stuff for AIM that I've counted a lot of money.
But
Especially
you had that machine. Didn't you have that automatic coin sorter machine too? You had one of those, right? I seem to remember
yeah,
that.
we tried that, but sometimes those things were never very good. The ones you buy, this was just,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, you know, I mean, if you go to a bank, you know, now, I mean, you know, you give them any kind of money, you know, to cash a deposit before, you know, they put them into a machine, right, to verify.
Yeah.
They don't even the teller doesn't even count them out anymore. They just put them in the machine, make sure that it reads out what you said it reads out at.
Yeah.
You know, so
What about the accuracy of the machine?
I guess it's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I haven't had the times I've done it, I haven't had any problem with it, but I will say, just on counting money, you know, my real vivid memory is that when we were at the RNC convention in Houston, what was that, 1992?
92.
Yeah.
Yep, I was there.
And so we had a booth. We're still in our nascent period of having a booth, and we were fairly popular. Not maybe, you know, we didn't sell
Well, you had
a
those Reagan
gazillion things like everybody
posters.
else did, but it was more. We were taking in more money than we had ever had before. And I
Yeah.
just remember myself and Charles Moranto, because we were in the hotel room together. We had shared that room, and I kind of felt like Goodfellas. We were sitting there. I mean, we I think we sold well over $10,000 worth of stuff, and it was all in cash because we weren't doing credit at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Credit mechanisms.
That was when you had those
available.
little charge plate things, right? That was probably when you had to have those little things where you had
Yeah,
to
maybe
swipe.
so. And I'm not sure we even that was always a pain, because, you know, we lost money off of those things because people gave us bad cards, you know, because you can't get those verified right away, right? So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you trust that they give you a good card, and then when you run them through later on, you know, they wouldn't go through. And a lot of people, actually, even if you send them a letter, we would get addresses for people. A lot of people would just never pay up. I'm like, you're
Yeah.
ripping off a nonprofit? I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
how low can you go?
Yes.
Well, and you know what's funny? It's Republicans ripping off Republicans. You know, you'd think Republicans are
Yeah.
better about
Well,
stuff
sure.
like
Yeah.
that.
No,
Yes.
it doesn't matter. There's people, some people are people and have no conscience in a lot of cases. So
Yeah.
you get free stuff, you get free stuff.
But I tell you, no more can you do. Like when I was at GW, I would buy the Monday Washington Post with the $20 bill every Monday. One Monday, I gave him $1, and he gives me back change for 20. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? You know, I gave you $1. I only need 75 cents.
Mm.
Yeah. The days when newspapers didn't cost that much money.
Yeah. What
Yeah,
is the Washington Post cost now? The daily version, if you bought a paper copy of it, $1?
I don't know. I mean, I know for the Wall Street Journal, I think the price is $5 per issue now.
$5.
Wow.
Yeah.
I buy
It
it
used to be-
online. I have an electronic Wall Street Journal, so I just get it.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
I
not
used to-
cheap. No, it's not cheap. Wall Street
it's
Journal's
not
not
that,
cheap.
yeah. No, you still pay for it. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, but
And
they
I tell you,
were probably the first successful newspaper that was able to actually get the digital subscriptions that made that whole process work.
well, you know,
Where others-
it's funny,
where others
Don.
struggled.
Growing up, we used to get the Wall Street Journal, and my friend, I guess we were in first grade, goes, I don't like this paper. There's no pictures in this paper.
Mhm.
Because the Wall Street Journal didn't have pictures in it, you know.
Yeah.
They still don't really, right? It's just the sketches.
No, but I mean, on the front page they have pictures. They
Right.
have they actually they do a lot more pictures than they used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They really do. I mean, I get the print edition at home.
All right, because I
Yeah.
only get electronic. I
Yeah.
haven't read the print copy.
Yeah. I get the print. I like the print, but I also read the electronic depending upon where I am.
The electronic's easier on the eyes to read.
It can be, but I know that when I have a physical newspaper, I go from cover to cover. Electronic, I'm jumping around a lot.
And they throw those stupid ads in, like the Baltimore Sun. There's like so many dumb ads they keep. While you're reading an article, you gotta jump over like 5 ads before you get to the end of the article.
Yeah, I mean that's just the way it is, right? That's how they help cover the cost of things in this day and age.
Then I shouldn't have to pay for my subscription for online subscription for these newspapers. It should be like YouTube Premium. You go ad free. Like when you pay for it, they should just take out the ads and leave the ads in for people who don't pay for it.
Mm.
That's the way they should do it.
The one thing I'm wondering, I'm sorry to extend this because you guys probably want to get going, but the one thing I'll say is now I've been watching, because I'm now into podcasts. I'm doing 2 now. And I watch a lot of podcasts now. In fact, I don't even watch much other TV. I mean, I'm always watching all these different podcasts. One thing I don't like, but I know this is a reality, and maybe one day I'll have ads. But when the podcaster does the ads in the middle of it, I don't know. Sometimes it's...
Yeah, ad blocker can't even block those ads.
That's right. But I understand they're trying to make money, and I'm sort of going to be in the same position, so I get that. But
yeah,
I don't know. Sometimes it
doesn't.
Roslyn
Capital will be happy to take your we'll sponsor your sponsorship. If you want to advertise with us, we'd be happy to talk about Roslyn Capital.
Yes, it's always Roslyn Capital. I always see the gold companies.
Yeah, that's Roslyn Capital. Is that the gold company?
Yeah, that's the gold one. Yeah. That's always there. And Title Lock, mortgage, title lock. Have you checked it?
Yeah, on those ads though. I mean, so the way the ad market works is that you've got ads that can be inserted by these ad companies, right? That go in there, they can target market your podcast or whatever, and they can even because the IP addresses, they could target market so that they feed you something that's really supposed to be more for your area in general if they want to. But the host read ads, those they pay more for those.
Yes,
because they pay a host fee. So if the host is reading the ad, that ad brings them more money than just the standard ad that everybody else sees. So,
well, I guess sometimes it's like when the host will say, like on radio or something, use my offer code, because then they can track it.
Right. Exactly.
See, that's why our sponsor, Masoni's, there's no offer code because the prices at Masoni's are so good. You don't need an offer code to get a discount.
I'm thinking maybe just to practice, even though I don't have a sponsor, maybe just do an ad, and then people will think, wow.
Yeah, do an ad for Masoni's Italian restaurant, or Chef Jeff's. Are they still open, Chef Jeff's in Tyson's Corner?
I don't know of it, no.
It's a good Republican.
I do a promo for my book. I do a little blurb, and part of that's just a practice, maybe. Mm-hmm. But maybe I should break into like a gold ad. Uncertainty in Washington. Are you nervous? You should be nervous because
our friend Larry O'Connor, and everyone should subscribe to Larry's podcast. Larry with Town Hall Media, and Larry does really good stuff. And we'll talk about Heritage Foundation next week, Don.
Yeah,
I forgot all about.
I've been holding back on that one.
The days of Ed Foner and Senator Nichols are gone. Not Nichols.
Jim DeMint. Was it Jim DeMint at Heritage?
Jim DeMint. Yeah, Jim DeMint.
Brief run. Yeah, very brief run.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what happened to him, but he left the Senate to be at Heritage, right?
Yeah, that didn't work out too well.
No.
Well, didn't he die? Wait, didn't Jim DeMint die while he was president of Heritage?
No. He
I don't think so. He's a fairly young guy. He was not that old.
He went on, and he's got some other organization now.
Yeah. I mean, look at this. I mean, look at Ollie North. He went to run the NRA, and then he got his throat cut there by people.
And married Fawn Hall.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, not a bad deal.
Colonel North, we'd love to have you on our show. Anyways, we're in extra innings. I
just want to say one last thing, and I'll give it back to you, Dwight. So, I've had this thing behind me here for Spencer, our late son. So we finally we've been struggling for the last couple of years since he passed to try to figure out how to honor his memory, and we've completed this document now, and then I'll post more on my Facebook page probably next week once I get the actual link. But so we have established a scholarship in his name at Brigham Young University that cool. That deals with the Constitution, religious freedom, religious liberty, things that Spencer loved and was always concerned about. So yeah, those schools, they're going to provide me a link. So if there's anybody who wanted to contribute to that on top of that, but we're basically giving the bulk of the money to make this thing go.
Do we want to do a fundraiser for this? I mean, we could do a little house party. We could do a little house party, and then proceeds would go to that and be tax deductible.
Yeah, I don't know. We can talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I've got an idea.
Okay. All right. Anyway, that's all I had.
Okay. Good night, everyone. We'll see everyone next week. And it's almost Thanksgiving, everyone. Take care. Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
There you guys.
Let's go down to Missoni, where Italian cuisine shines.